The rain mirrored the storm inside me. A relentless drumming against the window pane, each drop a painful reminder of the shattering reality I faced. A note. That's all it was. A single, carelessly penned sentence that detonated my world. I've gone where you'll never find me. Ilara, my wife of 20 years, the woman I thought I knew, had simply vanished, leaving behind a void so profound it threatened to swallow me whole. We built a life together, brick by painful brick. A comfortable home, a successful career, a life seemingly perfect from the outside. But beneath the veneer of normalcy, a chasm had opened, a secret garden of infidelity blooming in the shadows. The scent of her perfume, lingering faintly in the air, felt like a cruel mockery. I reread the note, searching for a hint, a clue, anything to explain the inexplicable. Where could she have gone? And more importantly, why? The question echoed in the cavernous silence of the study, unanswered, suffocating. I felt utterly lost, adrift in a sea of confusion and betrayal. The life I had cherished was gone, replaced by an agonizing, unanswered question. The rain continued its mournful song. The paper felt thin and expensive beneath my trembling fingers. The ink, a deep, almost black blue, seemed to bleed into the fibers, mirroring the bleeding in my heart. The handwriting, usually so fluid and warm, was strangely detached, almost clinical. Each stroke of the pen felt like a deliberate act of severing, a final, brutal punctuation mark on our shared history. I've gone where you'll never find me. The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken accusations and veiled emotions. It wasn't a goodbye, not really. It was a pronouncement, a finality. A rejection of everything we had built, everything we had promised each other. I traced the loops and swirls of the letters, desperately searching for a hidden meaning, a secret code, anything to decipher the message. But there was nothing. Just cold, hard truth. The tear at the edge of the paper suggested a rushed decision, a desperate escape. It wasn't a planned departure, it was a flight. A flight from me, from our life, from the very foundation of our existence. The note was a testament to a betrayal so complete, so devastating, it felt like a physical wound. Fragments of a life, now fractured and distorted. The memories, once vibrant and joyful, now seemed faded, like old photographs bleached by the sun. I saw her there, laughing on a beach, the waves crashing around her, her hair dancing in the wind. A carefree, happy Ilara, a version of her I thought I knew intimately. Then, a glimpse of our kitchen, warm and inviting, filled with the aroma of freshly baked bread. A quiet moment, a shared smile, a feeling of contentment. A wedding photo, a young, hopeful couple, brimming with promises of forever. But the images were tainted, overlaid with a sense of unease, a subtle dissonance. They were ghosts of a past that no longer existed, a stark contrast to the present reality. Each memory felt like a stab of pain, a reminder of what I had lost, of what had been stolen from me. It was a cruel irony, the very things that once defined our love now served as a painful indictment of its demise. I fought to grasp onto those memories, clinging to the remnants of a happiness that had vanished without a trace. The city lights blurred into an indistinct haze, mirroring the confusion in my mind. I stood at the window, the cold glass a stark contrast to the burning ache in my chest. The note trembled in my hand, the words echoing in the silence of the room. A sense of utter defeat washed over me, a crushing weight of despair. How could this happen? How could the woman I loved, the woman I trusted, simply disappear? The world outside continued its relentless rhythm, oblivious to the turmoil raging within me. Cars sped by, people hurried along, their lives unfolding as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. My world had been irrevocably altered, shattered into a million pieces. I felt utterly alone, isolated in my grief and confusion. The rain continued to fall, a steady, mournful rhythm that seemed to amplify my pain. I was adrift, lost in a sea of uncertainty, with no compass, no direction, and no hope of finding my way back. Her apartment. I found it easily enough. A sleek, modern space, all glass and steel, devoid of the warmth and intimacy of our home. It felt sterile. Immaculately clean, meticulously organized, yet strangely empty. A chilling contrast to the vibrant life we had shared. On the vanity table, amidst a collection of expensive cosmetics, sat a single perfume bottle, her favorite, a delicate floral scent that always made me smile. It was slightly askew, as if she had left in a hurry. The air was thick with the lingering scent of her perfume, a cruel reminder of her presence, her absence. I walked through the apartment, searching for clues, for any sign of where she might have gone. But there was nothing. No note, no message, no explanation. Just an unsettling emptiness, a void where her life used to be. The silence was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of the city outside. It was a carefully constructed facade of luxury, hiding a secret, a betrayal. The endless highway stretched before me, a dark ribbon winding through the night. The streetlights blurred into streaks of light, a dizzying reflection of my own disorientation. I drove aimlessly, without a destination, driven by a desperate need to escape, to outrun the pain. The radio crackled with static, the music a hollow echo of happier times. Each mile felt like a step further away from my life, from my past, from the woman I had loved. The darkness outside mirrored the darkness within me, a profound sense of loss and despair. I stared into the rearview mirror, at my own haggard face, at the lines of worry etched around my eyes. I barely recognized myself. The man in the mirror was a stranger, haunted by grief and betrayal. I didn't know where I was going, or what I was looking for. All I knew was that I couldn't stay. I had to keep moving, keep searching, keep hoping for some semblance of answers. I found a photograph tucked away in a drawer, Ilara, smiling radiantly, holding a child. A little girl, no older than 5, with Ilara's eyes and my stubborn chin. It was a picture from a family vacation, years ago, a time when our lives felt simpler, more carefree. A wave of bittersweet emotion washed over me. Happiness, tinged with a profound sense of loss. I hadn't realized how much I missed her, how much I missed the warmth of her smile, the sound of her laughter. The photograph was a painful reminder of what I had lost, of the future that had been stolen from me. The child in the picture. I didn't know about her. Had Ilara been hiding a child from me? The question gnawed at me, adding another layer of complexity to this already devastating situation. The photograph was a cruel irony, a glimpse into a happiness I would never experience. I saw her. In a crowded cafe, across the street. Ilara. She was with a man, a stranger. They were laughing, their heads bent together in conversation. She looked happy. A different kind of happy than I had known. A carefree, unburdened happiness that I hadn't seen in years. My heart hammered in my chest, a painful rhythm of disbelief and betrayal. I watched them for a long time, hidden in the shadows, my eyes burning with unshed tears. The man was handsome, well-dressed, and attentive. He held her hand, his touch gentle and reassuring. It was a scene of intimacy and affection, a scene that should have been ours. But it wasn't. It couldn't be. I turned away, unable to bear the sight, the pain too intense. The image was seared into my memory, a constant reminder of her betrayal. I managed to get my hands on her phone. I know it was wrong, a violation of her privacy, but I couldn't help myself. I needed to understand. I scrolled through her messages, searching for answers, for clues. The messages were cryptic, veiled in secrecy. Short phrases, suggestive emojis, coded language. It was like trying to decipher a foreign language. But I pieced together fragments, glimpses of a hidden world, a secret relationship. The messages hinted at stolen moments, secret rendezvous, a love affair that had been blossoming for months, perhaps even years. Each message was a stab of pain, a confirmation of my worst fears. The truth was out there, hidden in the digital shadows, and it was more devastating than I could have ever imagined. I found myself in a dimly lit bar, nursing a whiskey, trying to numb the pain. The silence was deafening, broken only by the clinking of glasses and the murmur of voices. I felt utterly alone, lost in a sea of strangers. The bartender, a weary-looking man with tired eyes, offered a sympathetic glance. I didn't want to talk, didn't want to explain. The words felt inadequate, insufficient to express the depth of my grief. I just wanted to disappear, to escape the pain, to forget. But the memories wouldn't let me. They haunted me, swirling around me like a relentless storm. I took a long drink of whiskey, the burning liquid a temporary distraction from the ache in my heart. The bar was a refuge, a place to hide from the world, from the truth. The courtroom felt cold, sterile, and utterly impersonal. I stood at the witness stand, feeling exposed, vulnerable, and utterly defeated. The judge's gavel echoed in the silent room, each strike a painful reminder of my shattered life. I recounted the details, the betrayal, the pain, my voice trembling with emotion. The lawyers questioned me, probing for weaknesses, seeking to undermine my credibility. It felt like an endless ordeal, a public airing of my private grief. I wanted to scream, to shout, to make them understand the depth of my pain. But I couldn't. I had to remain calm, collected, and composed. But inside, I was crumbling. I walked on a deserted beach at sunset, the sand cold beneath my feet. The waves crashed against the shore, a relentless rhythm of sorrow. I walked alone, my head down, my shoulders slumped. The sky was ablaze with color, a vibrant spectacle of orange, pink, and purple. But the beauty of the sunset couldn't penetrate the darkness within me. It felt like a cruel mockery, a reminder of the happiness I had lost. I kicked at the sand, the grains slipping through my fingers like time itself. I wanted to run, to escape, to outrun the pain. But there was nowhere to run. The beach stretched endlessly before me, a vast, empty expanse. I started writing. Pouring my heart out onto the pages of a worn, leather-bound journal. The words flowed freely, a torrent of grief, anger, and despair. I wrote about the betrayal, the pain, the confusion, the loneliness. I wrote about my lost love, my shattered dreams, my broken heart. The journal became my confidant, my therapist, my only solace. I wrote until the early hours of the morning, the words a cathartic release. It wasn't a solution, but it was a way to process the pain, to make sense of the senseless. I started seeing a therapist. It was a reluctant decision, a step I resisted at first. But I realized I couldn't go through this alone. I needed help, guidance, someone to talk to. The therapist's office was warm and inviting, a haven from the storm raging inside me. I sat in the comfortable chair, feeling a sense of cautious hope. It was difficult, dredging up the painful memories, reliving the betrayal. But with each session, I felt a little lighter, a little stronger. Slowly, painstakingly, I began to heal. It wasn't a linear process, there were setbacks, moments of despair, but I kept moving forward. I started to rediscover my passions, to reconnect with friends, to find joy in small things. I learned to forgive, not for her sake, but for my own. The pain didn't disappear entirely, but it lessened, becoming manageable. I started to believe that I could rebuild my life, that I could find happiness again. I took up photography. It was a way to focus my mind, to find beauty in the world, to create something new from the ashes of my old life. I started exploring the countryside, capturing landscapes, portraits, moments of everyday life. The act of creating, of composing, of capturing light and shadow, was therapeutic, a way to channel my emotions. I found a new sense of purpose, a new appreciation for the world around me. I started volunteering at a local community center, helping with children's programs. It was unexpected, a detour from the path I had envisioned for myself. But it was incredibly rewarding. The laughter of the children, their innocent joy, reminded me of the simple pleasures in life. It gave me a new perspective, a renewed sense of hope. I stood at the window, looking out at the city. The lights twinkled, the cars flowed, the people hurried along. It was all so vibrant, so alive. I no longer felt the crushing weight of despair. I had survived. I had endured. I had emerged from the darkness, scarred but not broken. I had learned that life is unpredictable, that pain is inevitable, but that healing is possible. The betrayal had changed me, irrevocably. But it hadn't destroyed me. It had forged me into something stronger, something more resilient. I had learned to trust my instincts, to rely on myself, to value my own happiness. I had learned that love is not always enough, that sometimes, even the strongest bonds can break. I started walking towards the future. not knowing what it held, but embracing the uncertainty. I had learned to live with the pain, to carry the scars, but not to let them define me. I was free. Free from the shackles of the past, free to create my own destiny. I continued to write, to reflect, to grow. The journal became my constant companion, a repository of my thoughts, my feelings, my experiences. I realized that betrayal, while devastating, could also be a catalyst for change, a chance to reinvent oneself. I stood on the hill, overlooking the vast landscape. The sun was setting, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the fresh air. I had found peace, not in forgetting, but in accepting. I had found strength, not in revenge, but in forgiveness. I had found myself, after losing everything. And in that moment, I knew that I was finally, truly, free.